There's a term, leaders are readers.
Oh yeah.
you know. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to, and not everyone is aspiring to be a leader, and that's completely fine too. But if you are aspiring to be a leader, you can either learn from other people's mistakes and their stories, or you can have a hard time in life learning from all your mistakes that you're going to make. So that's how I see it. And I love, to your point, autobiographies. I fell in love with, like, I don't think it's actually books, but there's this History Channel movie about the men who built America. The Andrew Carnegies, the, Fords and, Edisons, like all those folks that really set the stage in terms of the American industry. And so those for me really, and then to your point, even the tech people too, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs. And so, but I would say it's about time too, since we are in a podcast where it's all minorities here, and people of color. Like, I'm looking forward to books that, or even stories that has industry of, like, black men, men of color, and so that way the future generation can look up and see, like, there are the future generations of people of color can realize, like, there are successful, like, black people, not necessarily just only in entertainment and
no, I think you're right,
and all
yeah,
that, but in industry. There's a term, leaders are readers.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to, and not everyone is aspiring to be a leader, and that's completely fine too. But if you are aspiring to be a leader, you can either learn from other people's mistakes and their stories, or you can have a hard time in life learning from all your mistakes that you're going to make. So that's how I see it. And I love, to your point, autobiographies. I fell in love with, like, I don't think it's actually books, but there's this History Channel movie about the men who built America. And
yeah,
it talks
great
about,
show.
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, I said great show. And then they have a bunch of spin-offs too, like the food that built America, and
Is it?
technology that built America. Yeah,
Nice.
it's honestly really good.
Yeah, no, the Andrew Carnegies, the, Fords and, Edisons, like all those folks that really set the stage in terms of the American industry. And so those for me really, and then to your point, even the tech people too, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs. And so, but I would say it's about time too, since we are in a podcast where it's all minorities here, and people of color. Like, I'm looking forward to books that, or even stories that has industry of, like, black men, men of color, and so that way the future generation can look up and see, like, there are the future generations of people of color can realize, like, there are successful, like, black people, not necessarily just only in entertainment and
no, I think you're right,
and
yeah,
all that, but in industry.
I was gonna say, to your point,
yeah.
who were some of your inspirations, Donavan, Caleb, black or people of color, entrepreneurs that inspired you either now or coming up?
It's a great question. Well, I would even you need to tell me about the book King. It's called King.
Yeah, it's called King. King of Life. It's a great book. I'm listening to it on audio because it's like 600 pages. And my thing when it comes to books is, like, if it's an autobiography, I like to listen to it just because everything. King's actually a unique story, but a lot of people's like, no, your story right here at 10 wasn't the most impactful moments. I like to just hear it and go through it versus like trying to read every single page of that part.
Well, because that's a great question, and I'm not gonna lie, and this is unfortunate because like I've tried to study. I'm a really big history buff, and I studied a lot about like American history and like American industry. And unfortunately, in that history, there's not a lot of, and that was actually one of the things I would see a lot. I'm like, wait, where are the black, business leaders or, whatever, whether it's business or even just like, philosophers or even political leaders. There wasn't a lot of them in the history of America, unfortunately.
You want to know the real story?
You want to know the reason why that is?
And you're right. And I'm thankful for Black History Month, right, to spread that awareness of, and sure enough, we're, having this podcast on Black History Month to share the awareness of where, we came from as a black race and where we're going to. But Martin Luther King actually was and still is a great inspiration to me when I, read his story and his vision, his dream, and, what he had for not only, black folks, but, every person. So I would say Martin Luther King was definitely a go-to person of inspiration. But now, what's that guy from Vista Equity?
Yeah, Robert Smith.
Robert Smith.
Shout out to Denver.
East High School.
And there's another guy, John Hope Bryant.
John Hope Bryant.
Yeah, I post a lot about his stuff too. These are the current like black leaders. There's also women. A lot of people don't like Oprah for whatever reason. I think what she's been able to do as a black woman.
Well, I'm in books. So I love Oprah.
I think what she's been able to do as a black woman, right? So it's one thing being black, but as a black woman, says a lot. I think a lot of people need to like kind of figure out and learn. And I don't know if the right word is learn from her, but like, figure out how she did it, and kind of go from there. Yeah.
And I think when you look at inspiration, it doesn't always have to be someone who's on the status level of Oprah, on the status level of Topi from Calendly. It can be someone in your local community or even someone who's in your home. So the biggest inspiration I have is my mom, Shirley. She wasn't an entrepreneur, but she had to sell her skill set to continue working. She had to be the CEO of our household for my sisters and I to make sure she balanced the budget, put food on our table, product market fit, which was getting us to school and getting us to a stage in our life where we could take care of ourselves. And that's what she did. So that was my biggest inspiration, even though very few people know who this woman is, but hopefully one day will.
Wow. Shirley?
No, that was moving, bro.
Shirley from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
Shout out to Birmingham, producing legends.
I'll tell you, when I was a kid, one of the things that kind of changed my trajectory was when I saw that Jay-Z started Rock Nation, because what he did with that was the first time I saw you could have sports agency and entertainment. I was like, wait, how is that a thing? Like, I was as a kid, my parents were like, oh, you got to go to law school because then you can do this and all that, right? So I was like, okay, I'll go to law school, right? But through that, you learn, like, those are some of the entrepreneurs that really have had a huge impact on me. One I'll say when I was in college is Ryan Wilson. He does the Gathering Spot, and it is one of the coolest spots. It's like a black country club of just like the smartest people that are in Atlanta that do entrepreneurship and all that. Kind of like basically like where we're at now, where it's like a entrepreneur hub, but for specifically founders in Atlanta. And it's amazing what they've been able to accomplish.
Mine was Magic Johnson. I still look up to Magic Johnson. Obviously, I learned about him watching old videos of the Showtime Lakers, and I learned what he did. Had to go through off the court and then what he built off the court. So Magic Johnson, definitely numero uno for me. And then I very blessed and fortunate to have him still in my life today, but from throughout. But one of my dad's good friends, Charles David Moody, who's built a bunch of things in Atlanta, and he was actually the gentleman I was referring to about a little bit earlier about him and his wife. But like having that as a close person, I could say like, oh, you can go to Morehouse, you can build something from scratch, and it becomes something, put me on this level where it's like, okay, you could do it. Also really love Reginald Lewis, who I've gotten into recently, but like he needs to be learned from age of birth. You know what I mean? Because I don't know how I went 28 years not knowing who this dude was, and he's one of the most inspirational people I've ever come across.
Yeah, and we're reading his book in our Founders Book Club on our platform. So if you all want to read it with us.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, I mean, just might as well say it. Reginald Lewis. So he started. Well, so he's he's a black lawyer who graduated from Harvard Law School. Ended up doing some leverage buyouts and all that. He first bought McCall Patterns, which is like a texture company and all these different things. He literally bought that for $1 million, reflipped it in 3 years for $90 million. Then he went on to buy Beatrice Food, which was like one of these big like international food things that he had to like obviously learn how to. He had to do all this deal making, but when he bought it, they bought it for like $987 million. He was like the first black person to generate $1 billion in America. Like, and the thing is, then he passed away because he had brain cancer. So like no one, like not that many people know his story. All they have is his book, basically, right? And his family is like really cool, like Miss Loyota Lewis, and his family is unique. Like he got married to a Filipina woman, and so like it was just like a very interesting story that I think people should read. And if you all are interested, I would love for you guys to get an audiobook or read it however you like.
A couple more. Yeah. Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, Black Star.
Being dead serious.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey.
The name sounds familiar.
Look him up. Then LeBron of late and Jay-Z, because these dudes they are amazing. And then obviously Oprah. Oprah is and there's plenty of other people. You know, I think we've already shouted her out, but like LaDonna's well on her way to being type of Oprah person that we say it now, you know, or you'd be like, oh, I don't know who that is. You gotta go look up at her company or whatever. But like, there's some wonderful women on their way up currently.
Pinky Cole from Slutty Vegan. I know I'm shouting out a lot of Atlanta. The company's called
Colorado people.
The company's called Slutty
Good
Vegan.
question.
And she does like healthy burgers and all these type of things, and it's become like $100 million company too.
Shout out to Zanetta.
Zanetta is really great too.
Yeah.
Who believed in all of us at the beginning.
Right.
Program manager, founder, access mode.
You know,
all around bees.
Right. You know, change maker,
game shaker.
Yeah. No. No. This has been great. This is solid.